You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
So, if Cinderella's outfit disappeared after midnight, why didn't her glass slippers disappear?
Good question.
Oh, hey, you made it. I'm glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
And Nuria Colby.
And what are we going to be talking about today, Nuria?
Today we're going to talk about being flexible in business.
Yeah, so being flexible in business, and you know, there's a lot of things that this could mean. You know, part of it is, you know, we're all going to run into issues. You know, nothing's going to go completely smooth in business or in life. And we need to be able to kind of change directions, pivot, and learn how to be flexible. And I know you had a really good example of that in kind of pop culture.
Yes, I mean, the biggest example I could think of, apart from the ones that I have experienced myself, but the one that probably everybody knows about, or most people know about, Blockbuster, the big video renting company. I think we've all used them in the past. We used to go every weekend to Blockbusters and rent a video to watch at home. And now we have Netflix. And what actually happened is that the founders of Netflix approached Blockbuster, which was a $1 billion company, and Netflix at the time was really small, but Netflix had a vision of the future. Really, they knew that the internet was going to change a lot of things. So they approached Blockbuster to see if they could buy Netflix so that Netflix would then run their internet side of things. And they wanted $50 million for Netflix then, and Blockbuster just refused straight away. They didn't want to know. And as we all know, we know what happened to Blockbusters. They went bankrupt. I think it was in 2010, and I think it was in 2019 like that, they closed their last store. So, and we know what Netflix is now. Netflix is a multi-million, if not billions, I don't know, but a huge company, right. And they knew how to pivot in that respect, how to be flexible. So I think that's a really good example for us and for any other business, that you sometimes have to pivot and be flexible. Times change, things change. Even if times don't change, situations in our own lives change. So we do need to be quite flexible there. And I'm sure you've got some examples yourself, probably, Keith, where you have tried to change things.
Yeah, you know, there are so many, like I said, there's so many different variables in a business. And so, you know, and unfortunately, even as a business owner, there's only so many of those variables that we really have control over. Like most recently, what happened is for people that publish no content, low content books, and as you know, puzzle books are one of the big things that I do, is KDP, which is owned by Amazon, put in this thing now where we're not allowed to create a series for our no content, low content books. Yeah. And where, you know, with some things like line journals, I get it. But with other things like puzzle books, for example, you know, it's important that the customer knows that these books are different. Because if they buy the same book that they've already done before, they're going to get upset, and then they're going to leave bad reviews. Yeah. And so what I've had to do, and what I've been teaching my students and people that watch my other YouTube channel, is that what we have to do is pivot and make it even more apparent in our covers that they're different, whether you label them volume 1, volume 2, whatever, but also making them similar looking, that they look cohesive, so it's clear that they are still part of the same series, even though we can no longer put them in an official series. Yeah. So again, I mean, that's a minor example, but it's something that you just have to react to, and you can complain about it, but that's not going to change it. So what you really need to do is figure out how you can pivot and change what you're doing, what you have control over, and to make the most of that kind of situation. Because there's going to be people out there, and there always is, who decide, like with Blockbuster, decide to just dig their heels in, and I'm just going to do it my way, and 9 times out of 10 that doesn't work out.
No.
So being flexible, it is really can help your business to continue to flourish, and sometimes even if you're not doing well right now in your business, it might be that pivot that makes the difference.
Absolutely. I think being flexible in business is crucial, actually. I think it's part of the reason why some businesses fail and some succeed, because if you can't change and adapt, and if you're too rigid, I can see why people think that's a good thing, because if something works for you, you think, well, I'm going to continue this for however long I can. But things do change, and sometimes I think that pivoting and thinking outside the box can actually elevate your business and take it somewhere else. I always like to think of things as opportunities rather than problems, or challenges rather than problems, because if you don't, then it is a problem. But if you think of it as a challenge, it can sometimes steer you in a completely different direction that you wouldn't have thought of if that problem hadn't occurred. And sometimes that's a good thing. It's a great thing. So I'm not afraid of things like that happening, because I think, hang on a minute, that's happened before and it's actually helped me in some way. So I think as long as we can be really flexible and embrace that and not think of it as a problem, it's great. And in your case, you with the Amazon not wanting low content books in series, it kind of makes sense, although I would have thought with your puzzle books, it would make sense to have them in a series, same as with coloring books, or same as with some of the books that I make that are in a series. And funny enough, I got away with that with mine, even though they're types of journals. So I think Amazon also doesn't really know the difference between low and no content books and higher content books. It's a very blurred line. So it's not, I think it's not yet established enough, or, there are so many different, what we call low content, which probably isn't low content at all. It's all about bending the rules a little bit as well. You have to in business, because you can't stick to them in a very rigid way. If something changes, something else will have a knock-on effect, and that has to change as well. So in your case, I think that was a really good solution, that you told people to make it clearer in their covers. And in actual fact, that is a good thing. That is a benefit of that, the way I see it. I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, and well, the truth is I'd already been doing that anyway.
Yeah.
I always, put volume numbers and want them to look cohesive, just so that way, I want to make it as easy on my customer as possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it just made it, this decision on KDP's part just made it that much more important to do that. And it's, I like you were saying, I'd been doing it too. I started having viewers reach out to me and say that they were getting rejected for putting their stuff in a series. And I'm like, I literally just put something in one of my puzzle books, a whole new puzzle book series out, and put it as a series like 2 or 3 days prior. Yeah. And yet I had people who were saying that they were getting theirs rejected, over a year ago. So in true KDP fashion, I think they were kind of testing the boundaries, and testing it out. And that's one reason why they don't really announce anything. But yeah, so it's one of those things where even if for whatever reason you're still able to do it, it's still, again, making those little bit of tweaks just enhances your product,
Yes.
And that's just one example of of how things can change and how you have to pivot and be flexible. But I mean, even if you're in the restaurant business, or you're creating products or whatever, shipping costs have gone up because of the cargo ships are harder to get a hold of and things like that. So you need to figure out ways to streamline things and make changes. And I actually find these little hiccups along the way. That's one of the things that makes the business in general more exciting to me.
Yeah.
If I feel like, at least with me, if it was the same old, I would get bored really quickly.
Yeah. And you get stagnant as well. You don't take your business forward because you always stay the same.
Right.
And I think especially if you've got a business that is reliant on a third-party platform, for example, say you're selling on eBay or on Amazon or on KDP, whatever that, or Etsy, whatever that third-party platform is, they have control over their rules, and they're forever bringing out new rules and regulations, what you can do, what you can't do. In Etsy at the moment, it's the star seller program. You have to reply to customer questions within a certain period of time. You have to have a certain amount of positive reviews. Otherwise, you don't get the star seller rating, those kind of things. So, and people are really panicking about this because they're saying, oh no, I can't reach the star seller rating. And sometimes all those things, they can hold us back. When there's a change and we find it hard to pivot and to adapt, it can hold us back. But I think as long as you embrace it, as long as you say, right, this is not a problem, this is a challenge, we're just going to see what else can we do to get around that. And I think that brings out the best in businesses and in business owners, and that kind of elevates the people who can think outside the box, that know how to pivot, from the ones that unfortunately find it hard. And I mean, we're not all the same. Some people find that quite hard. Right. None of us like change, but we need to train ourselves as a business owner to embrace that, because it's going to happen. It's not something that we can avoid.
That's very true. Well, because I mean, let's be honest, the whole point of being a business is it's not just you. You may be your own boss, but really your boss are your customers. And so there are so many things. A lot of people want to own their own business so they have more control. And what they learn very early on is you really have a lot less control than you probably think you do.
Definitely.
And I agree with what you were saying, that it's very easy to get stagnant and go through the same routines every single day. And because as humans, we're creatures of habit. And so it's very easy to do that. And by doing so, you are unintentionally limiting yourself and limiting your business. So I agree that these, when changes happen, it makes you think of other ways around it, whether it's, thinking outside the box or just tweaking things that you're currently doing. When you bring up Etsy, I think one of the biggest things, and the same thing for KDP, is, one thing that I've learned very early on in my business is don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you have, you're only publishing with KDP or you're only selling through Etsy, then you're affected even more at a greater level whenever they do make changes. Whereas if you are on multiple platforms, then even a drastic change on one will not completely, turn your business upside down, and also gives you more time to react. Because initially when a change happens, like you said, we don't like change. And so initially we're going to have negative thoughts about it. We're going to be mad about it. We're going to complain about it, whatever. And that's fine. Especially if you're on multiple, you have multiple areas, you're on multiple platforms, then you have a little bit more time to think about it and come up with a, what is a logical way for me to be flexible, to pivot around this. Whereas if it's your only avenue, then you have to make more of a knee-jerk reaction, which a lot of times is fueled more by the emotion of the change than actually logically thinking of what's the best direction for me to take my business.
Yes, absolutely. So true. And sometimes it's not even a change. I think you have to be flexible in yourself as well in terms of how you think about things. Because I notice that a lot, like with low content book publishing or any publishing, probably some people, they're put off by it because they can't publish spiral bound books, for example, or earlier on we couldn't publish hardcover books, for example. So there was a limited choice of versions of our book, and people were complaining about that a lot. And I kept thinking, well, it's not what Amazon KDP does. You know, there's no point in thinking this is going to hold me back now, because that wasn't on offer in the first place, if you know what I mean. It's like you're stopping, or people stop themselves sometimes from being flexible because they've got an idea in their heads of how they want this done. And it's not, you have to be really open-minded and just say, right, okay, what is the actual end result that I want to achieve, you know? And if that's a spiral bound book, then I can't go with Amazon KDP. But if the achievement for me is just to produce a book that people will buy, I can do that. So you have to kind of adapt your way of thinking in so many ways, even when there are no changes, even if that is the situation that's always existed, and you're just letting it hold you back, you know, just because the way it is, without even any changes happening. And I think that is the difference, you know, when people are open-minded and try and make something work for them, it works so much better, I find. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny you brought up spiral bounds, because I immediately thought of a workaround, a way to pivot around that exact situation. Because you can go to a place like Lulu, and they do create spiral bounds. Unfortunately, through Lulu, you can't publish the spiral bound on Amazon. And it's not a Lulu issue, it's an Amazon issue. Amazon doesn't accept spiral bounds from third parties. But there is a way around that, and that is you make it through Lulu, then you open up an Amazon seller's account and sell it that way, and you're still selling on Amazon. So again, a way to be flexible. Yeah. A seller's account does cost X amount of dollars a month, but then you can have your spiral bound book that's done by Lulu on Amazon. And so again, it's just ways of thinking around things. And again, like you said, it wasn't a change. It's the way it's always been. Yeah. But it's changing your thinking about it. I think the saying, where there's a will, there's a way, that comes to mind. If you really want to do something, there's always a way to do it. And sometimes it's from choice, you choose to do something. And sometimes it's a change that affects the way you're doing something, and that creates that situation for you. But either way, I think being flexible is a must. It's crucial in business. It's not something that... It is. That would be nice. It's essential. It's, you have to be flexible. Agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And another part of it is, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, is sometimes it's not even really making any changes in your business. It's being flexible with your mindset. And understanding. Okay, well, if the example I gave, you can create a seller's account. Or do you really need to have a spiral bound version? Just because you want one, is that what your customers are really looking for? Are enough customers looking for that to justify that payment? That monthly charge that you're going to be doing for not to mention the amount of extra time it's going to take now that you're doing a seller's account in addition to everything else you're doing. So, just being flexible within yourself and saying, okay, maybe this isn't something the business really needs. Or maybe it's not something the business really needs now. A year from now, 2 years from now, when we're going further along, maybe it's something we can add. Another thing that we can be flexible on, and this has happened to me very recently, is I've got a course that I have, and the course has, because of the way the course is designed, there's no refunds. Just because it's a very it's very instant as far as like what you learn and things like that. And so I actually, I've had a person reach out to me and ask for a refund, and even though it's very clearly stated and they have to click a box that says that they accept that there's no refunds, I have been flexible, and I've given a refund. So again,
funny you should say that. I had that very thing today. Where someone reached out and they were fully entitled to one because I agreed with them, So sometimes you have to. It's,
Yeah. And I had done that early on with the course over a year ago because they brought up a really valid point, and which actually not only did I give them a refund, but I completely revamped my course based on this one comment, because I agreed with it that much. And this just goes to show how much, doing a pivot, being flexible can really benefit, is because now my course is bigger and better and selling way better than it did before.
Absolutely.
That's and again,
such a great
it was
example.
just by being flexible and not being, because I didn't really have the time allotted to revamp my course and basically double the size of it, but it was a valid complaint that they had, and it was worth it to the business to do it. And like with many things, you put the time and energy into it, and you definitely reap the benefits. So but I could have just been steadfast and said, no, I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and the course would have probably continued selling the way it was, as opposed to now where, it's almost 10 times what it was before.
I think that's a perfect example of what we were talking about, because it shows you how, if you hadn't thought about it and hadn't taken in the point of the refund, your business wouldn't have lost anything, but it would have stayed the same. Whereas by doing that and by thinking about how you can improve things, it's probably going to skyrocket your business, not only within that event, but because you've got that kind of mindset, that is a really good thing to have for any future problems that are going to come up, similar things that will come up, and they will come up because these things happen all the time in business. But I think you've done absolutely the right thing and the best thing for your business there. So that was a perfect example, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just came to me while we were talking. Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria, and a big thank you to each and every one of you listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, it would mean the world to us if you'd follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform. And while you're at it, go on and leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you think. What are we going to be talking about next week, Nuria?
So next week, Keith, we're talking about finding success, which is another great topic.
Yeah, that should definitely be a good one. Well, until next week, I've been Keith Wheeler.
And I've been Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.